So it's this time of year, and we have the flying beauties that everybody loves in their garden, children and adults. The hummingbirds are here.
That's right.
And they'll be coming back through en masse later in the summer.
That's right.
So we've got a special guest with us, actually two special guests with us today. Stephanie Baker and Ava are here to help us with a great, fun summer project with those hummingbirds.
That's right. So my name's Stephanie Baker, and I'm the owner of Ready to Grow Gardens. And so what we do is, for the last 20 years, we have designed and installed school learning gardens. So we create both food gardens and pollinator gardens, and then we have the kids come out as a part of their science time, and we teach them science, but in the garden classroom. So that's what I do. And every year, this is my granddaughter, Ava, but every year during Garden Day in the fall, we start back with a hummingbird lesson.
Right.
Because that's, kids love hummingbirds,
Sure.
and it's just a good way to start the year. So we start our curriculum on Garden Day talking about hummingbirds.
Right.
And so not only do we have the plants, we're going to talk about that today on how to attract them to the garden, but we also know that feeders will attract the hummingbirds. Yes. And beautiful hummingbird feeders like this are always fun to have in your garden, but it's also possible to create them and just do it yourself and make hummingbird feeders. So today that's what Ava's helping us with, and we have a couple ideas. These are just spice jars. And so we took off the labels, and the fun thing about these is that, of course, the red is nice to have, but when you take off, the holes are already there. You don't have to create any holes. So we're going to decorate, Ava's going to decorate using some acrylic markers and decorate them, and then you'd simply be able to fill the spice jar with the sugar water or the nectar. Same thing with this taller one. We'll just take this lid off, and there are the holes. So she's going to be creating, it's also possible to use just a shallow dish.
Oh, really?
And they'll perch on here and drink. And so we're going to decorate this glass dish. And then the last one we have is a soy sauce jar.
Okay.
And so this soy sauce is kind of neat because there's already holes here too. And the water pressure, when you put the sugar water in, it actually doesn't leak out. So they would use
They're on the side there. That's great. Yeah.
So we're going to have Ava decorate these for us while we talk about
the plants. Of course, we got to talk about the plants.
Yes.
Well, I wanted to mention a few plants. Of course, we all know and very familiar with the salvias, how there's such a great nectar of the bumblebees, the honeybees, the butterflies, and of course the hummingbirds. There's a new series here, this skyscraper series, that has quite taken my heart. I love this color.
Beautiful.
When you think of salvias, you typically just think of the traditional blue and red, but it's so nice to add these burgundies and orange tones that they've come out with. This guy gets quite sizable. He gets about 3 feet by 3 feet, and a very reliable perennial. The one thing that I have loved about it is it doesn't seem to need so much deadheading to keep it in full bloom.
I agree.
So I brought this salvia, but there's also, the hummingbird bush that everybody's so familiar. You've got the new lime SIZZLER. So you've got color from bloom, of course, but when you've got color in the foliage, you always have color.
Yes, just to have that variety makes it beautiful.
These are a few things that I thought people might not be quite so aware of, especially those with a part shade garden.
Right.
You've got the LOBELIA CARDINALIS, and as you see here, it's getting ready to send out a bloom spike. It will bloom again in the fall, a great native, brilliant, deep, true red bloom. And like we talked about earlier, we're getting ready really now for that fall migration.
That's right.
When they come through in number.
Right.
And we want to have all these guys in place and ready to go when that happens.
That's right. We find that a lot where people, once the hummingbirds are here, then they're scrambling trying to get their garden ready. And now is the time to plant all of these so they're thriving and established so that when they come through in August and September, the hummingbirds will be all over the yard.
Right. Your address is on the list. And when you've got these plants in the garden, they'll be back. They will find it. Another great one for a part shade or shadier landscape is shrimp plant. We all know shrimp plant, but we may not all know this lemon sorbet. And I mean, how can you turn away from that color?
Beautiful.
That white and that lime green are such a great pop in a shady garden. We talked about fall. So toad lilies. And toad lilies will almost act as a ground cover, a perennial ground cover in the shade garden. They're fall bloomers. They will send up a bloom spike covered with gorgeous purple orchid-looking flowers, and the hummingbirds love them. So they come in a solid green, and you got the variegated. Now, this is one of my favorites, and I know I say that all the time, but it really is. I think I have 6 or 7 in my yard.
Do you really?
Yeah, I really do.
Oh my
and they've
gosh.
come back after every event. Harvey, freeze, it doesn't matter, they
Wow.
come back. This is Calliandra or pink powder puff. So I would plant this as a perennial shrub, and that's how I use it. You've got this beautiful little flower reminiscent, I think, of a mimosa bloom.
That's right.
The butterflies, the hummingbird, any nectar loving will come to this. This is your flower bud.
I know,
Isn't that pretty?
it's so cute. I
know.
love that.
Little raspberry bud. You get this flower. One of the brilliant things about this plant, and especially somebody that really isn't home all that often, is their self-pruning. In other words, when this flower's done, it literally just dries up and falls off.
Wow.
So there's no dead-headed needing. They also have a beautiful growth shape. They're open, drapey, airy. Mine have been in the ground for so many years, even though this year and a couple years ago they started from ground zero. They're already up and of size. They get 3 to 4 feet tall and wide.
That's what I was just going to ask you. Okay.
Yeah, and full sun, 2 parts shade. Another
Nice.
favorite in my landscape is this one. It's a
Love that
Justicia
color.
orange. I know, it just waves at you. Justicia orange flame. Again, back from the cold weather right now in the landscape, they're 3 by 3 and literally covered in these. I have a hummingbird on them every single day.
Wow.
I love this plant. And you can't go without a porterweed.
Right.
And this, they, as you see, they bloom up this stem, and the stem keeps elongating. I often see the hummingbirds using these as a perch.
Oh, wow.
So they're really fun.
That color, I love that color, and then the purple attracts them like crazy too.
It
So
does,
both of those.
and you know, people think it has to be red. It doesn't have
They
to
love
be
purple.
red.
They love orange. Yeah.
They do, and it does, like you said, come in coral, red, purple, and what they call blue.
Blue.
Yeah.
Right.
Beautiful plant. Another one that's underused in the landscape, I think, is Augustoche or hyssop. You've got that beautiful anise fragrance in the foliage, 2 to 3 feet tall and wide, depending on the variety, but it just blooms all the time. A
Love that color
nectar
too.
plant.
Another good variety.
Yeah.
Love that color.
And then Mexican oregano. And this is the Mexican oregano, the spice that you find. It blooms this really beautiful lavender tubular flower, and again about a 2 by 2 semi-evergreen shrub, really. Plus you can bring it into the kitchen so you and the hummingbirds can enjoy it.
I love the variety you chose because this shows some, like you said, some that are not as used as often.
Right.
And look at the variety of the foliage and the colors.
And the color,
Yeah.
the blooms are just beautiful and super low maintenance. And like I said, we tried to incorporate for those with the shady garden,
Right.
As well as those with the sunny garden. So yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
So we need to get these in the ground now, get them going, so that we have them ready
That's
when
right.
they come through in
There's already, I'm
August.
sure you've seen them. I've seen a few in my garden,
Yes.
but they really start coming in strong in August and September. So that'll be here before you know it.
Yeah. So how's Ava doing?
How you
over
doing,
there?
Ava? Looking okay? So we just have some flowers. Oh, there's a rainbow. So you can paint this glass with these acrylic markers, which makes it nice. You can always use paint and a paintbrush, but these markers are super fun for kids to use. They're a little bit easier, not
And
as
not
much
so
mess.
messy, yeah.
Not as much mess and clean up.
So how are we going to hang these?
So I would hang these either with a string or twine or with wire.
Okay.
You can use a wire to wrap around and then use it like that to strap just like a copper wire.
I was going to say the copper wire you can get at the hardware store would be pretty.
Yes,
Beautiful.
and wrap that around
Put
and
some
then make a little
beads on
hook.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do that too. And then the nectar, of course, you have the nectar that you can buy. That makes it easy. Doesn't have to be red. Red is
No.
not a thing. And in fact, you'll read plenty of pages that say it's not good to use the red.
Right.
So this is great nectar, and then you can make it yourself. So it's pretty simple. The rest of the thing.
One part sugar to 4 parts water.
That's right.
Yep, and keep it in the fridge after you melt the sugar in the water. Just keep it ready to use, handy to refill, because you're going to be refilling them often.
That's right, and that's the other thing I think people don't realize is how often you need to change it out. That
keep it clean.
That's right. You don't want to have sugar water that gets nasty, and it only takes a couple days. So really, I find like every 2 days, 3 days tops, you should be changing out the water.
Perfect.
So
I like your bird, Ava. Nice, good job.
looking good.
Well, she's fast.
Yeah. Those paint parts, look, you've got a flower, and there's a hummingbird.
I love it. Good job. Thank you, ladies.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.